but we got to talk about this week. And this week in movies, like we were saying, Japan did not come to play. You have almost two sides of the same coin, the aftermath of big events that happen in Japan. One where it's very much an action movie that we covered last week in Godzilla -1. I am very excited for this poster, Zach. You have brightened my day with that. But we also have a movie that we covered back at the Toronto International Film Festival. Zach, did you finally get the chance to watch this?
I did. After several close calls without seeing it, I finally got to see The Boy and the Heron.
Tell me.
Because it's been released in many movie theaters. I saw it by myself at a private screening thanks to the AMC. No one else decided to show up.
Subbed or dubbed?
Yeah, exactly.
No, subbed or dubbed.
Oh, subs or dubbed. I saw the subbed version. I figured that I would catch the dubbed one later. Because I am very curious.
That is the proper choice. Yeah, that is the proper choice.
Very curious about particularly Robert Pattinson's choices in
my goodness.
that one. But yeah, you got to catch the original version of it first, right?
Good. Yeah, so we both caught the subbed. I'm very excited to catch the dubbed because I think these are the one, voice, what would you even call it, directors that really know how to get a cast to come together. So, but yeah, tell me about your first take on Boy and the Heron.
So yeah, obviously it's the new film from Hayao Miyazaki, who is the legendary Japanese animator, director, however, filmmaker. And I think that, he's kind of unquestionably one of our great artists. This is visually just an absolute feast. And it's got that, that style of animation that feels almost like it's been lost to time, and that it really feels hand drawn. It really feels like tactile. It doesn't feel like hyperactive the way that a lot of animated movies are. The front runners for the Oscar this year seem to be, at least for animated, seem to be The Boy and the Heron and Across the Spider-Verse. And you couldn't think of two movies that are more different in terms of like the attention span required to try and watch them. And I think I was really, really blown away by just the beauty of the film, and some of the images are put together. I think that Miyazaki has this unique ability to really transport you to like these alternate worlds, these very imaginative locations and characters and setups, and he just has a perspective that feels unique. Even amongst a landscape with a lot of animated movies out there still aren't people who are able to achieve that. While that was enough to sort of carry me through it and enjoy my experience with it, I got to say that I didn't really connect with the story. I thought it was a little bit disjointed. It's kind of like you end up being transported from the real world to this kind of more fantastical location. And I don't know if I ever really connected that much with what's going on in that aspect of the movie. They're doing a really interesting way of portraying grief, of portraying, sort of like a rebuilding of the self. And there's obviously some elements here that I think lots of film journalists have taken, maybe even read too much into, about like lineage and passing things on. And like, I don't know.
I feel with that?
I mean,
I do slightly.
I think it's there, but I think people are, as we've found out, people are taking it to mean like this is Miyazaki's final statement on his career. It's like, no, he's back to work on Tuesday. I don't know if it's it's quite as conclusive as a lot of people have been trying. Like, I've seen a lot of people say like, oh, if you see this is obviously his retirement film. I don't know if I got that vibe from it, even if there's elements of it there.
Look, people went to the Brett Favre game, I don't know how many times, thinking that it was going to be the last one. So you never know when the last one is until it's the last one,
That's true. And look, if it is going to be the last one, I think there's a lot of beautiful stuff in there, even if it is not my favorite Miyazaki movie. I think it's totally worthwhile. I think it's, incredibly beautiful. I'm excited to give it a second chance, and maybe on that second chance, maybe with the dubs or whatever, I'll connect to it a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, I still think it's beautiful. I don't know if I would go Boy and the Heron above Across the Spider-Verse in terms of the best animated movie of the year, other than for like the career legacy type of considerations that Miyazaki totally does deserve. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, I think I just ultimately, I ultimately was a little bit, I couldn't get on the same wavelength as the story that was being told in the film.
Yeah. Again, we had seen it very early in the morning, and when you look back at a lot of his filmography, I think that there is a split between when he balances the whimsical and when he does something very serious. You know, The Wind Rises was one where I was like, wow, this is a lot more serious, and a bunch of characters coming to life. And as I've gotten older, I've appreciated that movie a lot more. And that's kind of the perspective that I came into this one, where I saw it become very whimsical, and then I was like, oh, but there's some like serious points here as well.
Totally.
It plays around with it. I think Ponyo may be one where, to me, that's the most whimsical that he possibly gets. There could be other ones. We're doing our rewatch for a future intercut
Bracket.
video. I don't think it's as serious as The Wind Rises, but it's somewhere in between where I, like you, feel like I need to rewatch it again just to fully understand the bouncing that he was doing, because it wasn't until afterwards that I realized something that I said after our TIFF review. The original title is How to Live.
Yeah.
That answers it so much more. And that's why the things you were saying about the journalists who were like, oh, this is retirement film. I do agree with you. They were very clickbaity on the sense of like, this is a retirement film and this is my final review of Miyazaki. And it's like, all right, chill. But this idea that if you've ever seen him talk about his son and where it's all heading, and his almost like the vile emotions he gets when he sees 3D animation and AI, you almost do have this idea of like what's it going to be like for his lineage in the future. And when you really look at it from that perspective, I saw less of a movie about, oh, there's this boy and this Heron, which, yes, it's such an American title, but How to Live? Nah, that to me is, it answers a lot more about what this kid feels in his shoulders, what that then deals with in the storyline. That's a little bit like Petite Maman, no?
Yeah, totally.
and the ins and outs of like where it really becomes a parable of this idea of like how much of your family's lineage do you put on your shoulders.
Totally.
So that's why I'm willing to
The book
revisit
is How Do You Live? And
How Do You
the
Live, thank
original title. Yeah, but you got the same idea.
So I think that would have been a better way to pitch the movie.
Totally.
And I see you got Gustav's question in the live stream if you want to bring that up, because I do think that that's where easily.
Do we feel like we have a bias because this one is Miyazaki is the question.
I wouldn't give it a bias as much as I would give him credit.
That's exactly where I was going to go with it. Yeah. Like,
You know,
I think certain
there was a line that,
certain
Napoleon-
filmmakers have earned that extra level of consideration.
Ridley Scott said a line for Napoleon that I thought was a bar. He goes, the interviewer asked him, do you think that your movies have been misunderstood or something like that? I'm going to try to bring up the quote if I have it over here. And he pretty much goes, no, it's not that my movies failed. Do you think your movies failed? He goes, I don't think my movies failed. Think the audience failed to understand him at the time, but they always come around to it.
Yeah.
And just looking at his filmography, like, what are the misses? Like, Ponyo
Totally.
is one that didn't fully connect to me, but it's like, that's like Alina's favorite. And I wouldn't argue with anybody. And I'm sure once I rewatch it, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, there's a lot more to like here in its whimsicalness. So you like doing the stocks reference. I would not bet against the stock that is Miyazaki. I don't think that's a bias thing. I think that that's like we're saying, is him having the credit for it. Now, compared to this year though, I think what really connected us, also as Americans, you know, it would be something like Into the Spider-Verse, and the way that plays with all of the movies that we watch and these franchises, and how it commented on that. You know, the character of Miles Morales, and you know the difference in what he made into the superhero genre, as opposed to, you know, there's a little bit of Spirited Away in that main character that I think I related to a little bit more in his own filmography than I did the boy in this movie. So yeah, I don't think it's a bad movie at all. I do think that the older I get, the more I'm going to connect with it. But even the whimsicalness of it, I think in Totoro, Howl's Moving Castle, Kiki's Delivery Service, like, I'm just more attracted to them there. That Heron was ugly, bro.
Yeah, that's the kind of interesting thing about this is
No
like,
one wants to mention that.
I'm mentioning like, oh, it is a really beautiful movie, and it is a really
The
beautiful
fire at the
movie, but
beginning? Crazy.
But it's also kind of like a gross movie too. Like there's
Disgusting.
more bird shit than I've ever seen in an animated film.
Right? Yeah. Which, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much of that mileage is going to come in. Now, do I think that a lot of people are just like chucking it up and being like, it's Miyazaki, so it has to be good? For sure. And then you don't end up seeing it on the best of list? Yeah, probably. But the way that I approach Miyazaki is I see him, like you were saying earlier on, as a guy who's not trying to make something new just for the sake of making something new. I feel like he has something to say. That's why I truly do believe that this is talking about his lineage in animation, his legacy, whatever it may be, and that he truly is making movies that are going to feel like parables in the future. Movies that feel so timeless because they're not talking about a specific moment in time. We will have a future movie that will then commentate on Spider-Verse. But nothing's touched Spirited Away, Totoro, Mononoke, and I think that that's why The Boy and the Heron will stand the test of time.
You know, just going back to the bias question, I wonder if anything, maybe there's a bias working against this movie because Miyazaki has given us so many bangers that people can watch this one and be like, well, it's no Spirited Away, it's no Howl's Moving Castle.
Kind of, right? And aren't we saying that we like Spider-Verse because all of the other stuff has kind of sucked? Like,
right, exactly.
Yeah,
like sometimes you just are comparing to what's right next to it. And I don't know. I also think just taking the Spider-Verse question further, Spider-Verse feels like a movie that was built on the back of lots of other animated movies and superhero movies coming before it. It really feels like forward-looking in its ambitions, whereas this Miyazaki film is so kind of old-fashioned and contemplative, and I love those things about it, but ultimately I wonder if that's why Spider-Man sticks out more.
We also had Brady in the comments over in the live chat talk about his comparison to who he believes is kind of running it right now, and I would agree. I think it's almost like it's the Pixar element where you've been on it for so long that now even if it's still good, you need to do something different. We always talk about Tom Hanks. It's like we see a new movie and it's like, yeah, Tom Hanks is always great, but it's like we're just so used to Tom Hanks we take it for granted. I think. Yeah. Right here with like the Tale of Princess Kaguya and does he even have a new one coming out?
I'm not sure what's coming next, but he's done Grave of the Fireflies in the past as well.
But I would agree, it's Ghibli's made up by a lot more people than just Miyazaki, and I'd be curious to see how they end up expanding in the future. So, curious to know your thoughts on The Boy and the Heron. Have you seen the dub version? Who is the best voice actor coming out of that? What are your takes on the movie? Oh, he passed away. My bad, bro. I did not realize that. Dang, dude, he did pass away 2018.
Oh, damn.
Oh, man. Speaking of, Satoshi Kon's festival's happening right now.
Oh.
I came out and I'm like, oh, new Satoshi Kon. Never mind. So that's my second one this week. But let us know your thoughts down below on The Boy and the Heron, your takes on it, your interpretations of it, your favorite characters out of that one, all down below in the comments section.
Yeah. We got to mention, though, it's not just a big week for Miyazaki. I mean, it is a big week for Miyazaki in more than just a critical sense. This is his most financially successful opening weekend in the U.S. This is the first time a Miyazaki film has finished #1 at the box office, which is a really exciting prospect for, animated films and foreign films. Because it's not just the success of this Miyazaki movie, but we were mentioning Godzilla, which also was very, very successful, and it continues to be successful, so successful that they've extended the run through December 14th or something. Is that, I believe, longer than they originally planned. So with Boy and the Heron finishing #1 over the weekend and Godzilla -1 featuring #3 at the weekend box office here in the US, this is the first time ever that 2 international films have finished in the top 3 at the same weekend in the box office. And they're both from Japan, so a huge week for Japanese cinema. But I do want to ask you, do you think this is a outlier or this is a sign of things to come?
Could be a mixture of both. I think when you look at television, we've been able to see a lot of big things that have come from foreign countries, or international countries, I should say, that have made a splash that usually wouldn't if it wasn't for streaming. This, I think, could be it peering through that, okay, now it's people leaving the house to be able to go support these movies.
Right.
I think dependent on the material, for sure. You also have like 2 different things going on here. It is the newest Miyazaki movie that people thought was going to be his final one. You have the newest Godzilla movie, right? That's also been pushed with its $15 million budget.
Absolutely.
Are you still taking that the 15 mil. I don't know if you saw the new release about his quote. I wish it was 15, and people are like, I wish it was 15 because he wished it was more, or I wish it was
Right.
15 because it was too much. I think that story's still cooking, but nonetheless, what they did in that movie has been it's exhilarating, dude. It's one of the best outings for Godzilla that we've had. I'm excited to receive my poster, and yeah, I'm ecstatic that it's continued. I didn't get the chance to see it in Dolby, so I might even if they put it back in Dolby, go give it another watch.
Yeah, I do think you hit the apt point here in that I don't know if it's necessarily just like sudden interest in exploring foreign cinema. Although there is, obviously a greater hunger, I think, as audiences become more used to it, and American audiences also become more international and stuff like that. But we've already seen with the success of Oppenheimer, with the relative success of Killers of the Flower Moon, with even the relative success of Napoleon, that there is this new kind of hunger from film audiences to see the works of the great directors on the big screen. So Miyazaki is part of that class, right? If he is releasing a new film for cinephiles, that's an event. That's an event that you have to show up to.
Likewise, even outside of cinephiles.
Yeah, exactly. Like people recognize that it's sort of a special thing to get a new film from an all-time great auteur, and they will try to see it as soon as they can on the big screen. Likewise, Godzilla is a concept and an idea that translates, and even if this is a more successful Godzilla film than some of the ones that we've gotten in the past, it's a marketable idea, and the film really lived up to the hype. I think it benefited greatly also from really good word of mouth. So I don't know if we're going to get a whole bunch of weekends in the future that are dominated by international films, but international films are capable of coming from interesting people. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the next Bong Joon-ho movie, not Mickey 17, which stars recognizable Americans, but the next one that he maybe does in Korea or something like that, would also be successful, because now he's a name brand director and people are curious about what he's going to do.
That'd be really cool. It's once we realize that there's so many more movies outside of it, outside of the United States, there's a lot cooking out there, and that's always why we bring up stuff through our festival coverage in the future. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot to play with, because sometimes we end up with some boonk number ones, some horrendous number ones. But, yeah, good breakdown there.